समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के SIP का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया?
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का SIP टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
आप समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
As a nation, India, Bharat, कितने गाजी आए, कितने गाजी गए. Bharat was there, Bharat is there, Bharat will remain there.
I wanted to talk about the difference in the ethos of the Indian military and the Pakistani military.
Pakistan Army, you covered Kargil War so extensively. Pakistan Army did not take away the mortal remains of their own dead soldiers. Even when Indian Army...
We buried them with full rights.
General Joshi, that time Lieutenant Colonel Joshi, officer in CO 13 Jacket, Captain Vikram Batra's unit, they gave them a decent burial as per their religious rights. They refused to take back the dead bodies of citizens. वो जानवरों ने खाई वो dead bodies.
Prime Minister, he's great. I'll always be friends, but I just don't like what he's doing at this particular moment.
How do you see the overall geopolitical situation?
हम तो 5000 साल पुरानी सभ्यता है. We are a 5000 years old civilization. By extension, we are 1/6 of the world's market. कोई सुई भी बनाता है तो उसको बेचने के लिए इंडिया आना पड़ेगा. We are a military might which has been proved during Operation Sindoor. No, we can't be bullied.
Absolutely. So, reading your new book on Operation Sindoor, the untold story of India's deep strikes inside Pakistan, even though I was on the ground reporting, even though we had little bits of information here and there, one realizes that if it were not for India's spectacular air defense, imagine the carnage that Pakistan was trying to, they failed, but imagine the carnage that they were trying to inflict. And you write about how Pakistan's Fateh missile was intercepted over Sirsa. Sirsa is Haryana, not too far from the national capital. Let's start there. What was Pakistan trying to do after India busted the terror bases, attacked the Lashkar and the Jaish headquarters, and made it clear that India would not go beyond that if Pakistan had not done what it did? Missile intercepted over Sirsa, not far from the national capital. Let's start there.
Ma'am, first of all, the book Operation Sindoor, the untold story of India's deep strikes inside Pakistan. You talked about 2-3 aspects. I'll take them one by one. First is the air defense.
Yeah.
Ma'am, any military with the technological advancements and evolution has to evolve its warfighting capabilities, warfighting strategies. And India is a very professional defense forces, and they had visualized the next war not being on ground, but being the war of the drones and missiles. And accordingly, we had built up our air defense capabilities. And the latest or the highly technical air defense systems are very expensive, and they are not available within the Indian research and development installations.
Yeah.
So we cannot do away with or just throw away our old systems or vintage systems or legacy systems, and we could not afford to buy everything top of the line. So very well thought about process as an approach was carried out to integrate the lowest of the smallest of the small systems like Zu-23 guns, L-70 guns, and S-400s.
Yeah.
This complete array of air defense equipment was integrated with softwares so that they can engage different targets at different ranges as per their capabilities. So from guns to S-400s, and this was spectacular, the word which you used.
Yeah.
This was the ingenuity. This was the operational art. Everyone,
But how is it readied so soon?
That's what I'm coming to now. It's very easy for a country with, unending pockets
Yeah.
to buy the top of the line things, but to make sure all the existing and the newest technologies enmesh together and put up such a formidable defense against Chinese missiles or Turkish drones and what have you. So this, in a most synergized manner, and I must say it here for the benefit of the audience, it was not only the army systems or the air force systems or naval systems. Air defense systems are with all three services.
That's right.
Overall air defense umbrella control is with the Air Force. But integrating all this, I have written a lot about a system called Akash Tir,
That's right.
which was tested for the first time in this war. And how this Akash Tir air defense system of Indian Army integrated with the overall integrated air defense system of Air Force.
Yeah.
That is what, the war fighting is all about.
I have a lot of questions about the coordination between all of the different elements involved in this air defense. But I want you to talk a little bit about Pakistan's intent. We know a few things now. I remember being on the ground in Jammu the day drones were intercepted over not just residential areas, sir, but also at Shambhu Temple. We know, and you have written, that there was a clear intent to target in particular Gurdwaras, temples and churches, especially in the Rajouri Poonch, that belt, but we also saw it in Jammu. We have seen statements about why Amritsar was targeted, the holy city for millions in India and across the world. And then we actually see an attempt to hit India's cities with missile warfare, drones, some armed, some unarmed. Talk about that intent after terror bases were acted against by India.
Ma'am, Pakistan's intent, you asked a very pertinent question here. Intent did not become clear on 6th, 7th of May after we hit the terror bases. Intent became clear about 5 to 7 days prior to Pahelgam, when then General Asim Munir of Pakistan talked about Hindus and Muslims being two-nation theory.
Yeah.
He talked about Kashmir being the jugular vein. So there he said Hindus and Muslims are different. And that intent was enacted in Pahelgam, where people were killed in front of their wives, their children, their parents, based on their religion. People were segregated based on their religion and killed in cold blood in front of their kith and kin.
Yeah.
So that was the intent, where religion card was played, Muslims against the other communities. And that intent was also very clear during Operation Sindoor. I have given photographs in my book.
Yes.
I have given details of actions in my book.
Yeah.
Where the gurdwaras, the churches, the madrasas, the temples were hit. Specifically. There is a village in Tangdar Baul, Trubeni, the pure Sikh village. And since I have been a corps commander there, I have been a youngster there, there are a lot of people like Sarpanch and all are still in touch with me.
Yeah.
They send me photographs of that village in real time. कि सर देखिए हमारे सिख विलेज में पाकिस्तान की आर्मी जो है कर रही है. Then Indian Army retaliated. I talked about that also, how Indian Army provided defense to the citizens all along the line of control.
Yeah.
So line of control battle did not get the desired coverage.
Because everyone was distracted by the orange balls of fire in the sky.
Yes, because a lot of media was attracted towards the line of international boundary conflict.
Yeah.
And these missiles and drones, because they made good visuals. And as it is a line of control, even if a journalist is there, his area of influence is only about 500 meters to 1 kilometer because of the visibility factors.
That's right.
So it's but natural. But that story of the battle of line of control had to be told. Because it was a very, जिसको हम कहते हैं ना जिगरे वाली.
और आपने ये भी लिखा है कि जो वहाँ के लोग हैं, सिविलियन पॉपुलेशन, जिन्होंने सालों से अपने कम्युनिटी बंकर यूज़ करने की उनको ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ी. आई रिमेंबर गोइंग टू वन ऑफ द बॉर्डर विलेजेस, वहाँ पे बाल्टियों में घर का आंगन होता है, उसमें मोटर शेल्स गिर रहे थे. एंड यू स्पीक अबाउट दैट सॉर्ट ऑफ टफनेस, that the villages had not seen this sort of bombardment from Pakistan since 1971.
Ma'am, the resilience of the villagers, as also the making the villages prepare for such a contingency. Indian Army, I mentioned in the book, prior to 6th, 7th May,
Yeah.
after Pahelgam, or even before the bunkers were made, but between 22nd April to 6th of May, Indian Army was maintaining those underground shelters. Indian Army was carrying out drills. They were carrying out rehearsals. They were calling people as to this is where the hospital will be established. This is where the shelter house will be established. And the drills were carrying out so that we could minimize the casualties of the civilian population along the line of control. All those actions are given. And that's when
Absolutely,
the
yeah.
line of control battle was not covered very well on the media, but this battle had to be told.
Absolutely.
It was a very fierce battle, and I given hour by hour account at times. So this is one thing.
Give us a sense of what was happening at the line of control.
Now, on the line of control, Pakistani side was trying to target at multiple fronts. One, of course, they were targeting the frontline bunkers. They were targeting our command control, communication, surveillance systems and bases. They were targeting the bottlenecks of bridges and other where our reinforcements could not move from place A to place B. And then they were targeting the civilian population per se, especially the minority population, as also the places of worship. So they were doing it so that there was a message to be conveyed to the population that you are siding with India and this is what you get in return.
Now, how much of a challenge was this for the army, given that this time we did not see ground troop mobilization, as we have seen in prior face-offs, standoffs? How much of a challenge? This basically means that, you didn't have massive troop movement. You didn't have massive, at least visible sort of replenishments or additions. And you had the LOC suddenly ablaze. It was a hot LC, more than a hot LC. How much of a challenge would that have been?
Well, very rightly, as you pointed out, this was the first time in the history of the world that two nuclear powers came to war. And this is also the first time in the history of the world that two nuclear powers have gone in for a 4-day war. And not a single soldier or not a single piece of equipment like tank or guns have crossed the international boundary or line of control. The battle was fought along the aerial route by drones, the missiles, the artillery shelling. And Indian Army had visualized this on the line of control.
So it didn't take us by surprise?
No, it did not take us by surprise. I have been a corps commander myself, and I'm talking of when I was a corps commander in 2019.
Yeah.
We had war games such like scenarios, in addition to many other scenarios. So this was one of those scenarios which actually got played out. We had our plans ready, we had our contingency planning ready, we have reserves ready, we had our options and rehearsals done, including the rehearsals for the civilians. So this was a very well coordinated, synergized implementation, execution, and more importantly, the planning.
You write in the book about how in the first few hours after India struck terror bases inside Pakistan, just in those first few hours, 300 drones were pushed in by Pakistan at, I think, 40 different locations. Yes. Now, that scale is, extraordinary to think about. What this means is that in India, air defense would have had to have perfect coordination across all of the different both weapon systems as well as personnel who were involved in this. Can you explain to our audience how that would have happened?
Okay, ma'am, I'll take a little time on this.
Yeah.
Ma'am, air defense along a given stretch of international boundary, say 500 kilometers, this is the width of the spectrum or the battlefield. Yeah. And then there is a range and there is a depth. Now, depth is when an aircraft takes over or AVAX takes off from an airport, which is about 200 kilometers in depth, it should be detected. Then it should be designated to a weapon system. Then it should be destroyed by that weapon system which has hooked onto this. And that is a depth. And range is starting from a small drone, which is taking off to a big alien aircraft or a early warning aircraft. So that is the range of targets which it should be able to engage. Now, if you have to engage range of targets, that is the various variety of targets, at various depths inside the enemy territory over a large frontage. Now, your air defense, we cannot be firing S-400 onto a drone. S-400 must be fired onto a worth-hit target, like I said, early warning aircraft or alien aircraft. Similarly, for a drone, you need to have a local small weapon system which should engage it and not allow it to come.
But all of these different bits have to be centrally coordinated, or how does it work?
That's the point I made in the first answer. This is where we had worked it out and we had visualized this war taking place like this. And all three services coordinated their air defense assets in a manner that they got so well integrated that the detection of the target may be done by any system. The designation of a weapon system was software based as also the man interface based. And the designation of the weapon system to engage that particular target, so that it's not that 10 weapon systems are firing on the same target. And that will be waste of efforts. So this thing, detecting, designation and destruction.
But can you imagine how calm you have to remain in this situation, in a battle of nerves also?
Yes. Ma'am, that is exactly the operational art is all about.
Yeah.
As a commander, you don't only have to be calm, because that's the only way you can think rationally. You have to appear to be calm.
Yes.
Because that gives assurance to your body of troops कि मेरा कमांडर बिल्कुल घबराया नहीं है, मेरा कमांडर बिल्कुल कंफ्यूज नहीं है, मेरा कमांडर बिल्कुल एंशियस नहीं है. That means battle is in our grip.
Yeah.
We have a hold over the situation. The moment a commander is panicky, the body language will convey a message to the troops and soldiers, or even for that matter citizens, that our army is shaky.
Yeah.
We did not have our commanders going into the bunkers like Qasim Munir, then later on promoted himself Field Marshal.
Yeah.
Our commanders were on ground. They were in control of the situation. And that is the reason, as you mentioned, not a single missile or a drone could hit the intended target.
Yeah.
The only damage they caused to civilians and the religious places was in the line of control, where they used the artillery fire. And thereafter, there also, I mentioned in the book, RT gunner, Jawan Singh, sir, 1 round, 2 round, before they could fire 3rd round, we were there. We were engaging them in real time, their gun positions. And that is where, if you see the list which they put out on 14th of August, I mentioned about. By the way, this book is as updated as 18th of August.
I want to ask you how you updated it so quickly, but let's talk about the reference you just made. You point out how on a major Pakistan media website, the list of so-called shaheeds is published.
Yes.
And you can see the scale of the Pakistani casualties, and then quickly usko hata diya jata hai.
Yeah. Ma'am, it is a Sama TV.
Yeah.
Pakistani website or media house, which published the 138 names of on 14th of August, that is Pakistan Independence Day, for the gallantry awards.
Yeah.
Posthumously, they call it Shaheed.
Yeah.
अगर 138 लोगों को gallantry award मिला है, and yesterday Chief of Army Staff clarified most of them at the line of control.
Yeah.
अगर 138 को gallantry award मिला है, तो you can make out कि how many would have actually died.
Yeah.
Or have been killed in the action.
And this is in a country that infamously doesn't even own its soldiers.
Yes, they don't own their own dead casualties, dead soldiers. Happened in Kargil, happened in Kashmir during my tenure. So if 138 people were given the gallantry award on the Independence Day, and you can imagine scale of losses they would have suffered. And this is also mentioned in the book. And this whole thing only shows one thing. Enemy suffered casualties not only in their soldiers, not only in their military installations, not only their military equipment like aircrafts and L&T aircrafts and early one. And that is the reason. The first time, like I said, 2 nuclear powers go to war, and within 4 days, one nuclear power, which is assisted by a 3rd nuclear power, comes down to its knees and begs for a ceasefire. And now we know what made them beg for the ceasefire at 3:35 on 10th of May, when the DGMO called our DGMO. The number of physical casualties, that is the soldiers, the number of aircrafts casualties, and number of air bases damaged. Rahim Yar Khan is still out of action. Even day before the NOTAM has come out.
Yeah.
Okay, it is still under repair. Now that is the damage and precise damage caused by Indian weapon systems. And that is the reason it was a very wholesome, integrated battle. This battle of 4 days would go into the military history as a subject for future warriors from any service, Army, Navy, Air Force, to study. This is how a nuclear power was demolished over a span of 88 to 96 hours.
The chief Army chief at your book launch, he made a very important point, and I think for the first time it was revealed. Operation Sindoor did not end on the 10th of May. 10th of May is the day that Foreign Secretary comes out. He announces that the DGMO, as you just mentioned, has called of Pakistan. They have spoken to our DGMO. And, through sheer military success, that ceasefire was achieved. What did the chief mean when he said that the war did not end on the 10th of May?
Ma'am, firstly, it was a cessation of hostilities.
And not a ceasefire.
Not a ceasefire, which happened or as an agreement between India and Pakistan DGMOs on 10th May, 5 p.m. And as you are yourself aware, and I saw you on your channel also, 10th evening you are in Jammu area,
yes.
and you are showing the Pakistani drones over.
Yes, I was, the halt in hostilities had been announced and we were doing a show and reporting on that, and suddenly the sky lit up with Pakistani drones again being intercepted.
Yeah, so technically they had agreed for a cessation of hostilities on 10th May at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
But the hostilities from Pakistani side continued. Now, for us, we could have taken it as a breach of agreement. But being a responsible nuclear state, being a democratic country, responsible for our citizens, responsible for our defense forces actions, we did not retaliate in a hostile manner. And when Chief said the Operation Sindoor did not finish on 10th of May, he actually said it continued till about 16th of May.
Yeah.
Because various decisions had to be taken, various actions had to be completed. And because Pakistan was continuously
Trying to provoke. So when Chief said this, that he said, yes, for technically 10th of May, the hostilities are ceased as per the agreement. But on ground, a lot of work continued to be done till as late as, I think, 16th of May. And as we are all aware, Operation Sindoor is still ongoing. I want you to talk about the difference in the ethos of the Indian military and the Pakistani military. The Indian military, as you write, does not target innocent civilians. The Pakistan military knows that. And because it knows that, it tried to use the civilians of its own country as human shields. You list the number of areas in Pakistan where this attempt was made in populated areas where civilians are there, to plan it such that India could not attack in those places, or counter-attack rather in those places, because we would not attack civilians. We know this happened in the air when civilian flights were not cancelled, but this was also happening on the ground.
Ma'am, firstly about ethos.
Yeah.
Pakistan Army, you covered Kargil War so extensively. Pakistan Army did not take away the mortal remains of their own dead soldiers. Even when Indian Army...
We buried them with full rights.
General Joshi, that time Lieutenant Colonel Joshi, officer in CO 13 Chakrif, Captain Vikram Batra's unit, they gave them a decent burial as per their religious rights.
Yeah.
They did not claim their own dead. When I was the Corps Commander in Kashmir, 5 Pakistani terrorists trying to infiltrate were killed on the line of control. Their dead bodies are lying on the line of control. I personally, through DGMO, conveyed a message: take back your dead bodies of your citizens. They refused. They refused to take back the dead bodies of citizens. वो जानवरों ने खाई वो dead bodies. And that is the ethos. And मैम हम 5000 साल पुरानी सभ्यता के वंशज हैं हम.
जी.
We are inheritors and custodians of 5000 years of civilization. हमारे ethos different है, हमारा culture different है, हमारी war fighting के ways different है, हमारे honor codes different है. Our honor code, one of the honor code is we respect the dead enemy, because he went down fighting for his country. I've given an example in my second book where Lieutenant Colonel Leary, later Lieutenant General Leary, in 1971 war, when Pakistanis were attacking one after the other counterattack in Shakargarh sector, 8th counterattack, the Pakistani 35 Frontier Force CO, Colonel Akram Raza, he himself led the counterattack and he died in that counterattack. Next day, the ceasefire was called. When people came to collect their dead, General Leary, then Lieutenant Colonel Leary, CO3 Grenadiers, wrote on a notepad that this man died like a soldier, and hats off to them. And he got a Pakistani second highest award, equivalent to I think Hilale Juror or something.
Yeah.
And that is our ethos. We honor the dead. We don't leave our dead behind. These are honor code, the ethos which you talked about. In my second book, again, I've given a story. A young boy carried the dead body of a Subedar Saab in Kargil for 3 days, living only on melted snow. And when he came down to the base and people asked him, and he himself had a thigh injury, the bullet in his thigh. He dragged himself for 3 days and brought back the dead body of Subedar Saab. And when the people asked him, why did you do it? His answer was, मुझे मालूम था अगर मुझे कुछ हो जाएगा तो ये मुझे पीछे छोड़कर नहीं आएंगे. That is the honor code. That is ethos Indian Army has. And we have this ethos of respecting the civilians. We have had counter-terrorism or counter-insurgency operations going around in Northeast, in J&K. We never used helicopter gunships or air. Where Pakistan is using the airs and missiles from the air against their own people who are doing some acts of violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is a difference in warfighting, there is a difference in ethos, and our warfighting is also ethical. Never have we had allegations like what happened in Bangladesh, then East Pakistan, of Pakistan Army ravaging the population, rapes, the blunder and plunder and the rapes which they did in Kashmir in 48 and 65 when their operations, the Razakars came in.
Yeah.
So we are a different, and see, we bifurcated in 1947. It is just that one army went a particular way and second army went the other way.
And we have to thank our stars every day for our army. Talk about what the Pakistanis did to using their own people as civilians. I want you to elaborate on that.
I have elaborated, I have given examples, exact names.
You've given the exact names of villages, areas, yes.
They used the civil airliner flying and then using their, because when our S-400 could hit their targets as deep as more than 300 kilometers, they realized their fighter pilots were refusing to take off. Because all their air bases, people who understand the location, are more towards Indian border and they're within 300 kilometers. There are very few air bases which are in, say, Peshawar, Quetta, that region, or Balochistan. So most of the air bases were within 300 kilometers and within the range. That's what our DG Air Defense also said. Yeah. Okay, you can go anywhere, you have to find a very deep hole to hide, because we'll reach you. Yeah. So they were, and then the only way out was, knowing the ethos of Indian Army that we will not hit a civilian aircraft, they flew in the shadow of civilian aircraft. They deployed their radars in civil areas because they knew that we will pick up the signature of the radar, but we will not hit that radar because collateral damage can happen. So given the examples in the book, and all these are ethical decisions. Yeah. It's a very difficult for a commander to take a decision where he himself can take casualties of his own troops, of his own civilians. But that ethical thing, unethical thing not to be done, I think takes precedence.
You addressed the commentary on whether India lost some jets, and you say there are people within and outside India that remain focused on, personally, what I think is an absolutely irrelevant question, because as Air Marshal Bharti had said in an early briefing, all our pilots came home. Yes. And that is what actually matters. It's a war. It's not a six-course meal. There are going to be losses. But you address that question head on, and you address it by using a cricket metaphor. Yes. So tell us.
Ma'am, this narrative, in fact, I've given a subchapter on who won, who lost.
That's right.
And this narrative of, these many aircrafts down those, we have not gone for a morning walk.
That's right.
2 nuclear powers have gone for a war. Yeah. Losses will happen. Losses will happen on both the sides. But in the end, the victory is decided by, on the last day, who achieved what. Wherein we achieved neat, precise, accurate targeting of the 11 air bases. They could not interject or intercept even single missile of ours. And talking about that cricket analogy, since we both are cricketing
crazy nations, yes.
Crazy nations, so in a lighter moment, I gave an analogy as to why. Suppose a cricket team batting first scores 250 runs without losing a single wicket. Team batting second scores in the same 50 overs 251 runs and loses 9 wickets. So my question is, who won?
Who won? And that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. On the 10th morning, when their 11 air bases were down and they were begging for a cessation of hostilities or ceasefire, now that is victory. A nuclear power within 4 days begging for a ceasefire. And a nuclear power which is supported by another nuclear power. Now that is victory.
Absolutely.
No, that is where your national anthem will go.
Absolutely. But this brings us to the battle of narratives. And I think you have a whole section in the book on this. And you do talk about the fog of war, the need to, calibrate your information warfare in the age of social media, in the age of fake news. And you talk about how attempts were made to quickly shut down fake news. But what are the learnings? What have we learned from the battle of narratives in Operation Sindoor?
Ma'am, the biggest learning from the battle of narratives is, it's not only important that the soldier fights it out on the border or the line of control. It's also important for the, that media as well as the internet soldiers to fight it out in the virtual space. Because it's very easy for someone to just make a comment, make a statement, make an allegation, and then move out. And then there are people who are interested, who are agenda-driven themselves to proliferate it. They will recycle it, they will keep reposting it.
Yeah.
And it's a very technical way of doing these things. So the battle was being fought on the international boundary and line of control, but battle of narrative was being set somewhere else. And I'll give one example out of it. First time, two nuclear neighbors are fighting.
Yeah.
First time, Indian weapons, Indian joint venture weapons like BrahMos, Russian weapons like S-400, and French platforms like Rafales were up against Chinese weapons, radars, missiles, aircrafts, Turkish drones, some Western Bloc aircrafts. And in real war, they are being tested against each other. Now, trials on peacetime are different thing. Here was a real trial during the war going on. Now, any side which is declared a winner by these agenda setters will get all the military hardware orders from the third world countries or countries who buy weapons from developed or advanced countries or nations. So a narrative was set that if we declare that India has won this war convincingly within 4 days, all the orders for the other bloc
will go down.
And I give an example from Chinese share
and you
market.
talk about how the stocks fell.
How the defense industry stocks fell to 8.6% to 6.3% in one single day. After 10th of May, I think 12th or 13th May, in a single day, defense industry of China, who is making these weapons, their stocks fell by 8.6%. Now that is an indication who won, who lost. But there was a narrative being set, which create a fog of war, create a confusion in the public minds that ye nahi jeeta, wo nahi jeeta, because the game was being played somewhere else. The defense industry, the defense weapons industry is a very big lobby in the world. They didn't want Indian side to be declared outright winners because it will hurt their business. So narratives, it can be from a small little local advantage to an advantage at international level or a disadvantage to other at international. So that's why I had to devote more time on
the narrative
battle and a full chapter on this.
But let's come to China. Deputy Army Chief General Rahul Singh said it was one border but two adversaries. He also used the borrowed knife metaphor, and it's apparently one of China's strategies that khud mat lado, dusron ke through lado. How do you see China's role? And the question has become very relevant, and we'll come to geopolitics in the end, because we are attempting some kind of cautious rapprochement with China. What was the role of the Chinese as we now understand it in Operation Sindoor?
Ma'am, like General Rawat, late General Rawat, the former CDS and the former Army Chief, he had made a comment that India is preparing for 2.5 front war.
Yeah.
So 2 fronts are very clear and 0.5 is very clear. So China is our declared enemy. We had a Galwan, we had 2020 clashes, we had 62. And after that, a lot of border clashes made in Nathula or other places. But what happened is in all the wars with Pakistan, may it be 65, may it be 71, may it be Kargil, and may it be now, China has never aggressively and openly opened a front on the line of actual control or international boundary with India.
Yeah.
It has not even postured aggressively. It has supported Pakistan, like you said, कि आप लड़ो, मैं आपके साथ हूँ. But it has never directly interjected with Indian troops on their border. So here also, as expected, China was supporting Pakistan by supply of military hardware, which Pakistan paid for. That's a separate issue. Their radars, their missiles, their aircrafts and other systems. And also providing real-time intelligence of our assets, our formations, our systems. Yeah. And that would give Pakistan a chance to target them. That's a different thing. Pakistan with the Chinese weapon could not target because the air defense we talked about
That's right.
was very formidable. But China did supply intelligence, and I mentioned about it. I've also quoted Deputy Chief Lieutenant General Rahul R. Singh, wherein he says that Pakistan was supplying real-time intelligence of our assets and our locations and platforms to Pakistan. So China did not intervene directly, but indirectly it was expected, and China went on the expected lines from India's point of view.
And I will come to the geopolitics in the end of our conversation. One more question. There's a very interesting and important section in this book, which is called From Pulwama to Pahelgam. Now, of course, Operation Sindoor happens in the backdrop of the horrific terror attack in Pahelgam. But a lot of people, as you say in the book, have been wanting to know, how could it happen? Why couldn't we catch those responsible sooner? You were commander, you were Chinar Corps commander when Pulwama took place. And you explain in the book how Pulwama, it happened on an open highway. This was it was a very remote area compared to Pulwama. I want you to talk about that, because there are a lot of people who want to know, bhai Pulwama mein pakad ke maar diya, to yahan pe kyun itni der lagi?
When I started working on this book, the day Pahelgam happened, 21st April, a previous evening from Pahelgam, I was in Kashmir myself with my wife. I took a 7:45 or 6:45 flight in the evening and came back, and the next day this happened. And like any military observer or any soldier who's been into these things, I started making my notes. And when I was jotting down points, and everyone was questioning, like I was the corps commander in Pulwama, and we could eliminate or kill those responsible for Pulwama within 100 hours.
That's right.
And it was declared in a press conference, and we did that. And now after Pahelgam, Operation Mahadev came in much later, which I talked about in the book. But when I was working on the book, there was a lot of buzz around why Pahelgam terrorists are not being killed or eliminated. People say they're going back to Pakistan, this, that, and So then I started writing Pulwama to Pahelgam.
Yeah.
Firstly, after Pulwama, the peace came in, and then Pahelgam shattered that peace in Kashmir. And then why Pulwama and Pahelgam can't be compared. And like you said in the book, it's explained in long detail, but I'll just... Pulwama happened on valley floor. Pahelgam happened in an isolated valley, which is surrounded from all sides by very dense forest.
Yeah.
Pulwama happened where the built-up areas all around. Anyone moving, anyone talking can be seen, his intercept can be picked up. Pahelgam happened in an isolated place, not built-up areas. After that moment, you walk into jungle, and there is hardly any mobile coverage also. There is hardly any coverage of other electronics surveillance means. So it is difficult to intercept or pick up anyone moving there. Whereas Pulwama happened, and immediately they were all on a radar. There is a network of deployment there, and we could home on to wherever they were going. Whereas in that area, because not a single terror incident has happened in those areas for last so many years, and it's a tourist place, and visibility of soldiers or police with weapons does have a little impact on tourist mind and other place. So deliberately this area was kept little safe, but not too much of open presence was there. Whereas in that area, so they're like radars, surveillance cannot be carried out. The communication is very difficult. The trail, the jungle, primary jungle, secondary jungle, tertiary jungle, you miss out a chap at 2 meters. I walked in those jungles as a young officer. Operation Mahadev happened in the same Mahadev Ridge.
Yeah.
And you can't see beyond 2-3 meters at places. And that is the reason this operation took longer. So I talked about this and plus many more factors which I clarified in the book.
As a legendary corps commander, you were associated with one line that you used at a press conference, which became the title of one of your books, Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye. In the context of everything we have experienced, would you still quote that line or would you modify it a bit?
Absolutely. Not only as a 15th Corps commander, as a nation.
Yeah.
As a nation, India, Bharat. Kitne Ghazi aaye, kitne Ghazi gaye. Bharat was there, Bharat is there, Bharat will remain there. We may have thousands of internal fault lines. We may have thousands of internal difference of opinions. That is the beauty of democracy.
Yes.
But as a nation, we stay strong, we will stand tall, and we will always be there to be counted. And we are upwards and onwards.
That is the perfect cue for me to talk about the geopolitical place we are in today. And it's actually linked to Operation Sindoor. In your book, you talk about the halt in hostilities, how it happened, why Pakistan's DGMO called our DGMO General Ghai, and the rest was history. But Donald Trump wanted to steal that moment. He wanted to somehow make that moment about himself. And since then, he's gone on repeating. And now there's enough reporting to show that Prime Minister and Trump, in a 17 June phone call, Prime Minister Modi, the readout is here for everybody to see, made it very clear that there never has and there never will be mediation on this issue. Now we are faced with a very uncertain world where Trump or his administration, sometimes they say good things, but sometimes they say really rude things. They have reacted very badly to the images out of the SCO summit where Modi, Xi and Putin have had a power huddle. How do you see the overall geopolitical situation? Let's start with Donald Trump's obsession for credit in Operation Sindoor.
Ma'am, I have written about this.
Yeah.
There's a subchapter titled Who Called the Ceasefire?
That's right.
And I actually have put on the name of the US president there, that he jumped the gun.
Yeah.
This is the line I used, and I also gave out the sequence of events as to why and how of it. So on 10th of May, when we struck their air bases, and there was I also quoted Ishaq Dar,
yes,
their deputy prime minister, who accepted that they are the one who said, okay, ceasefire karwa dijiye. He spoke to Prince of Saudi. And then when we insisted on Pakistan, and we said it's a bilateral issue, we insisted on Pakistan requesting us for a ceasefire. And that is when the Pakistan Director General Military Operations called up our DGMO, Lieutenant General Ghai. Incidentally, Lieutenant General Ghai was there for the book launch yesterday.
Oh.
So very nice of him, good old friend. And also former Corps Commander 15 Corps. And when he called him up at 3:35 on 10th May, and we accepted their request. In fact, they requested. And coming to the point of geopolitics, today's world, military, geopolitics, geostrategy, economy, diplomacy
are all interconnected.
Coercion, they're all intertwined. Nothing moves without the other one also making certain movement. So what happened during Operation Sindoor, what happens in the global trade scenario, what happens in the global diplomatic scenario, what happens in the alignments and realignments, what happened in the SCO meeting, and the US President's tweets, comments on social media, social platform.
Truth Social.
Truth Social. So all these things are intertwined, and they are interdependent also. And now we have to look at, like I said, हम तो 5,000 साल पुरानी सभ्यता है. We are a 5,000-year-old civilization. We are one of the three pillars of non-aligned movement. When there was a Cold War between the Soviet Union and America, we have a history to go back on. And we are 1/6 of the world in population.
Yeah.
By extension, we are 1/6 of the world's market. कोई सुई भी बनाता है तो उसको बेचने के लिए इंडिया आना पड़ेगा. We are the 4th largest economy on GDP, going to be 3rd. We are the world's biggest democracy. We are a military might which has been proved during Operation Sindoor. Now, we can't be bullied.
Absolutely.
We can only be aligned. We can only be an equal partner. When I say equal partner, it can be the biggest country in the world. It can be the smallest country in the world. The dignity, respect of equality is because there is a country there. So we deserve that, we command that, and we accept that. Now, if someone's trying to bully a nation of our size, and when we talk about India, China, Russia, now combined, the SCO is 43% of the world. In population, 23%, 1/4 of the world's global economy. And no one can do anything in Indian Ocean without India's collaboration. Now, we are a force to reckon with. We are a power to reckon with, and we are a peaceful force. We are a democratic country. We have never had a history of a military coup. We had never had a history of military violence. Now, we can't be ignored. Only way we can be taken is we have to be taken along. And we showed to the world that we respect everyone, but more than everyone, we respect our own respect.
That's right.
So that is where, as a soldier, my understanding of...
I agree with you 100%. I keep telling people in the West, every time I'm on one of these Western channels, as an analyst, I say that you are not understanding. This is not about trade, it is about sovereignty. It's about self-respect and sovereignty. Sir, I want to end by asking you the future of warfare. As you said, the military had war-gamed this moment, how Pakistan would react, had prepared for it. But you have also said technology is constantly changing. I want you to talk about new warfare and the future of warfare and what we must mentally and militarily be prepared for.
Ma'am, as you have covered defense over so many decades, conventional war fighting, the strike was going in, and circle movement and going behind the enemy lines, all those things we have always been rehearsing, we have been training for it and we have been practicing it. But in the last few years, ever since the technology had started taking over the warfare domain, the whole spectrum, in addition to keeping that art of war alive, the conventional one, and we also started looking at war fighting with a nuclear overhang, remaining within the nuclear threshold, and at the same time, the impunity with which we could strike in a shorter war window, which actually played out in this war.
That's right.
So this is one of the scenarios which Indian Army or Indian Defence Forces have been working on. There have been scenarios of extended wars, there have been scenarios of disrupted wars, means you fight for 5 days, then there is some sort of a ceasefire or agreement, then after 5 days it again flares up, like something what's happening in Russia-Ukraine.
That's right.
So all these scenarios, keeping in mind the wars which are taking place in other parts of the world, may it be Israel, Hamas, Israel, Iran, Russia, Ukraine, or Azerbaijan, Armenia in the past. So we are taking lessons from all these and putting it in our scenario, in our geostrategic or terrain. And similarly, the technological advancements, like I have been a Director General Perspective Planning. I have had 4 tenures in this department. It's today called Strategic Planning, as a major, as a brigadier, major general, subsequently as a lieutenant general. This department of Army Headquarters looks at 15 years hence. 15 years hence of Indian strategy, today's enemies and likely enemies. We look at those after 15 years, where will they be, where will us be? What will be our manpower? What will be our manning strategy? What will be our weapon systems? What will be our technology? What is the R&D we need? What is the R&D we have? And what is the R&D we must invest in? And also the budgeting. And also the equipping. And we have a department which actually looks at those things.
So you're always planning for the future.
We are always planning for the future. And this war only proved that we are on the right lines. And today as we talk, I'm very sure the military planners in all 3 services under the CDS are working on what will be the next war like. And they would be preparing for it. It may be same, it may be different.
As CDS said that if you want peace, you must always be ready for war.
Absolutely, ma'am. If you want peace, you should always be prepared for war. And if you want issues to be resolved with talking, it's always better to have a gun in your hand. The other person understands you're talking better.
Well, General Dhillon, you've been a legendary commander, a legendary soldier, a source of inspiration for millions of Indians, and a prolific author. You now have a new identity as a prolific author. General Dhillon's newest book, I'm holding it in my hand for anyone who wants to understand the inside and the untold story of India's deep strikes inside Pakistan. This is a very important documentation of Operation Sindoor. We thank you, sir, for your service, your courage, your compassion, because all of it exists together in the best traditions of the Indian Army. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir. Thank you.